Now to an ABC Canberra special investigation. Home is the most expensive investment most people are ever likely to make. But what happens when that purchase turns out to be defective? What legal protections are there in the ACT for those who have had the devastating and potentially life-changing situation? Tonight we look at one Canberra developer that has allegedly left apartment owners tens of millions of dollars out of pocket, leaving a trail of defective apartments in its wake. Here's James Fettis.
It's any homeowner's nightmare. Mouldy walls, cracked render and sinking balconies.
The scale and the complexity of the issues are amongst the worst that I've come across in my 40 years.
These are the Alara apartments in the Canberra suburb of Bruce. They were built under the licence of B&T Constructions, which is headed by Canberra developer Ivan Bulum. Completed in 2007, the development has 120 apartments. David Allen bought one of them in 2012.
We were looking at a place for my daughter to stay, and so Alara is perfect, just across the road from University of Canberra.
But within weeks, things started to seem a little less than perfect.
Water penetration was occurring within the unit. The balcony floor was leaking, floods in the car park. Well, we bought a lemon. How foolish were we?
But a report later commissioned by the Owners Corporation alleged the problems went much further than water leakage. It alleged that in the event of a fire, first floor steel columns would fail in under 30 minutes instead of the 90 minutes required by the building code. It also found some balconies could be in danger of collapse with little to no warning.
The risks to the building occupants are, in our view, totally unacceptable.
That report was later refuted by another engineer hired by the builder. But the government was so concerned by the initial findings, it ordered the company to install propping to support the structure. Meanwhile, other problems remained unresolved.
There's about 12 categories of issues, ranging across roofs, walls, bathroom leaking, balcony leaking, as well as basement leaks and structural issues.
The Owners Corporation says it would cost more than $20 million to get everything fixed. In 2013, they turned to the courts, claiming B&T Constructions breached statutory warranties, which can include
not building in accordance with approved plans, not building in accordance with the Building Act, not using good and proper materials for the work, not doing the work in a proper and skillful way.
B&T rejected those allegations and the owners' right to sue. Early last year, the Owners Corporation moved to bolster their case with an additional 8 expert reports. But it was all for nothing. The very next day, B&T Constructions went into voluntary administration, effectively ending the owners' hopes of a settlement.
Once a company goes into administration or liquidation, it effectively stops the litigation.
It's like someone's just stuck a big pin into a balloon. All of a sudden you've got this nice balloon, and then all of a sudden you've just got this piece of rubber on the ground.
A fortnight later, prospective creditors, including the Alara owners, met with the company's administrators here in Canberra South. They were told that if B&T was to be liquidated, any money raised would likely go back to the company's director, Ivan Bulum, through an associated company owed a secured debt of $1.7 million. 2 months later, creditors met here again and voted to wind up B&T Constructions. Now, insurance is the only remaining option, and at its best, that would cover only half of the estimated cost.
I should be retired now and living the dream, but, this is the dream, which is really a nightmare.
And yet, even after years of fruitless work and expenses, the owners carry on, determined to get the problems resolved.
This property is a great place, so it's a fantastic spot. It just needs this work done on it.
But Alara is just one project connected to Ivan Bulum that's turned sour. In one of the city's most elite locations, the Empire Apartments in Forest were sold as the epitome of luxury. but instead it was home to 37 breaches of the Building Act, the Planning and Development Act and the Building Code of Australia. In one instance, the builder swapped out promised Aluka bond and stone cladding for cheaper material and never installed promised high-quality balustrades in the building's penthouses. The company appealed against a government order to fix 3 alleged defects all the way to the ACT's highest court, but lost. Across town in the Western Creek suburb of Holder, this block was subject to an emergency government order, including for a leaking sewage pipe which raised health and safety concerns.
A sewage leak was detected with significant effluent discharge seeping through the block wall within the garage adjacent to the main panel lift entry door.
The building's owners there faced a repair bill of as much as $300,000 across 10 units. In issuing his emergency order, the Deputy Construction Occupations Registrar found,
I am satisfied that the premises was built in such a way as to pose a risk to building occupants, and that rectification work needs to be undertaken immediately to mitigate risks to health and safety and damage to property.
With orders made in relation to at least 3 properties connected to Ivan Bulum, it's little surprise the developer is on the ACT government's radar. But this story goes much deeper than that. It spans almost 30 years of government investigations and legal action. It starts in the early to mid-90s with one Bulum company, I&M Holdings. The ACT government tried 3 times to liquidate that company over at least $150,000 in unpaid debt. Fast forward a decade and the federal government tried to do the same with another Bulum company, B&T Homes, over $1.4 million in unpaid taxes. Then, in 2013, yet another Bulum company, 4/49M, faced liquidation over almost $35,000 in unpaid rates and interest. In each case, the action was either withdrawn or dismissed.
The debt, the subject of the statutory demand, has been paid.
In 2014, the ACT's Construction Occupations Registrar went to the ACT Civil and Administrative Tribunal in an attempt to strip Ivan Bulum, one of his associates, and B&T Constructions of their building licences. The ACAT didn't cancel any, but did place conditions on B&T Constructions, forcing it to fix problems at Empire. But B&T didn't comply, so their licence was suspended in 2016. Then there's another Bulum company, Minotaur Constructions. In 2013, that business tried to apply for its own building licence, with Ivan Bulum as a nominee. The government took 7 months to rule on that application, and in the meantime, drafted and passed legislation allowing it to refuse licences where it would protect the public.
Unfortunately, the quality of work in some buildings can be substandard, which is of concern to the government and the community.
That reason was then used to reject Minotaur's application. But the company had that decision set aside, successfully arguing the legislation wasn't retrospective. The Bulum name casts a long shadow across the ACT's courts and regulatory system. But if you look up that name today, you're unlikely to find any of that. Instead, you'll probably end up here on Braddon's Lonsdale Street. The former light industrial zone turned hipster haven has long-running connections with Ivan Bulum, who currently controls 53 different companies. None of them holds a current ACT building licence, but Mr Bulum's presence in Braddon is palpable through a string of high-profile developments. Under a new corporate identity, the Bulum Group, Mr Bulum has turned from builder to developer, contracting out construction to local outfits. The ABC is not alleging the presence of defects in these newer properties. But Alara feels a world away from that. While Braddon is regarded as a development gold mine, owners here are fighting just to keep their investment afloat.
James Fettis reporting, and Ivan Bulum did not respond to a series of questions, instead referring the ABC to the liquidators of B&T Constructions. Tomorrow night we'll take a look at the government response and the regulations covering builders in the ACT.